All right, so while we're waiting for any last minute people to join, typical style, all of the microphones and cameras are automatically turned off. If you've got a question, either raise your hand or use the chat
feature.
Call it. I don't want to call it a chat bot, but it's not a chat bot. Use the chat window to submit some questions, and we'll keep an eye on it to make sure that we are answering any questions that come up along the way.
Yeah. The join notifications have slowed down, so I think we're good to get started. So let me share my screen. Awesome. Great. So welcome to the 2023 Q2 Pacer Cadence webinar. Today on the call, a little bit different than last time. I've got not only myself and Rich, but we're also joined by Perry. Perry Dunbar is new to the team, and actually we'll go through an introduction of Perry later on in the call. And so, as you may know, that last call we had a chat about spring cleaning. We talked about cleaning up your baselines, running those reports, and some things you can do to just manage your subscription. And this time around, we actually want to chat about some additional layers you can get to beyond that. So custom reporting. We're going to talk about some administrative offerings. And what we're really excited about to share with you today are some things that are coming soon. And Rich and I were playing around with Teams, and we created some polls. And so we may have gone a little poll happy this call, but we definitely want to value your vote. I mean, you all on the call are using this app so much, day in, day out, that your opinion really matters to us in not only what we add, but the order in which those things get rolled out. So we'd definitely love to get your input. And then we'll talk, we'll have Perry speak about his role, and then we'll go ahead and talk about our ebook and LinkedIn. We've got something special at the end of the call for everyone to participate in. So it should be good. So we'll get started.
Great, thanks, Connor. So kicking things off with the admin package offerings, and so just to give some background to this to the folks on the call, we totally appreciate that there's times when there's just too much on your plate, and you may need to need some assistance to get some stuff done in Pacer. It could be, hey, you've got a lot of openings coming up, and there's just too much to actually on your plate to do. It could be that you're trying to expand the use of Pacer within the rest of your organization, but you can't be the administrator for all the other departments that are trying to use Pacer as well. There's lots and lots of reasons why you may need some help. So Connor and his new role has put together some administration offerings. So Connor, I'm glad you've added this to the call today. Why don't you share what you've put together?
Yeah, definitely. Like Rich said, there may not be that person at your company that can manage Pacer for you. You may be starting out small, and we see a lot of customers join with Pacer, and they're like, I have an exact project I know I can use this for. And then as time goes on, they start to get more departments included and more projects happen, and it starts to get bigger than they realize, and they might need a little bit of help. So that's where we can step in. So we've created 3 options for everyone on different, basically, tiers. You can opt in, and they're charged by month. But something else to be said is that Pacer almost acts like another human on your team. That I don't even know how much money you could pay one person to manage all the tasks and analytics of a project that you have going on in your organization. That Pacer is something of its own that, as long as you give into it what you need to get out of it, it'll perform along the way. And we were able to step in and sort of help you move that process along of getting things started in the app so that you can get rewarded with all the benefits of the day-to-day. So keeping in with the Pacer terminology of running, we've created 3 different tiers of admin offerings, and we have them labeled as jog, run, and sprint. Sprint being the most involved. But some things we offer, right? That's what's most important. Tiered packages are one thing, but what are you going to get out of it that we're going to provide to you? Every package comes with office hours, baseline imports, user approvals, and location creation. And, with office hours, that's a great opportunity for you to say, hey, look, I have a struggling location. Um, you know, I just need them to use the app and I know that they'll be successful. You can use your office hours to have us train that team. So that way we can spend a little bit more intimate time with them, getting them familiar with the app and they're feeling comfortable getting in there and using it. Or to the second point, our baseline import. You may have a task list that you need to get into Pacer. You simply don't have the resources or time to move all those items onto our baseline import and get it in the system. You can also use office hours for us to do some backend work for you to move all of those tasks to an import and get that in there for you. Um, some things that are included in the Sprint package that aren't included in the others, as you can see here, the bottom two, project creation and project management analytics. So similar to how we have chats with most of you on the call, we're keeping in touch. What's going on? What projects are you working on? We'd love to hear about how you're using the app and giving you some creative ideas on ways to approach that. And with project creation, we have that conversation with you, and then we can actually get that baseline import in there, get that baseline, get those locations in scope, and start pushing them out based on your request. We become a partner more so than we already are with you in this process of making sure that Pacer is used to the fullest capacity within your organization. And one of the most rewarding pieces is the project management analytics, which is a great segue into what we're going to talk about next. But the analytics can go into having different reports show you not only how a project is going, but also how a project performed once it's been completed. This can be a great time to stop and reflect after you do like a pilot push. You might have a project that you want to push to only a few locations, and then you want to understand how that went so you can make any changes you need to so that it's successful for the next round of locations. So we'll go on to custom reporting. So with those analytics, best way to understand that is reports. And you may say, hey, you know what? There are reports already in Pacer. What is this custom reporting? What happens is, like I mentioned before, we talk with clients about how they're using Pacer, what they're up to. We want to hear about how they're using it so we can make those changes to the app to better serve all of you. And with that, when we're listening to how people are using the app, we want to help them understand about how these projects are going. So with custom reports, there's different ways that we can gather the data that you have in your subscription so that you can have a better understanding of how project by project are performing or even location by location completing projects. So we'll have a chat with you, understanding what project you have going on. We'll draft a version of what that report could possibly look like. And then we'll make sure that we're scheduled that delivery to all important stakeholders at your organization that can receive that data.
So Connor, I know you've spent a lot of time with us in the last 6 months since you've been with us and making sure that our existing customers have the data that they need to be the most successful. And then you've created lots of different customer reports for different customers for different needs. And so I think you're going to show us some examples, right? You can to
Yeah,
kind of
definitely.
solidify. Okay, yeah, there we go. All right, good deal.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so this first portion of reports. So we're gonna share a few reports, of course, changing some data on the tables. We're gonna share some real life examples of reports we've created for some of our clients. The first section is scorecard. So I mentioned before, some people want to see a location by location, side by side comparison of performance, or even a side by side comparison of how a project is performing. And so the first scorecard we have is that location by location. So as you can see in this chart, we're showing all locations on the left, all projects down in the next column. And this particular customer was opening up locations. They also may have had some takeovers or change in brand, but mostly during this run, all opening, we have their zero dates. And what they wanted to see was how each location is completing their tasks. And you might say, hey, you know what? Like Pacer has this, and they have it in graph form, and it's on my company overview, and I can see it clearly. And while that's true, you are power users. You're using it every day, and you understand it. But there may be a time that you're having a quarterly recap of performance to your key stakeholders, or stakeholders are interested in it, but they don't necessarily need access. They just say, you know what? Just give me the most important data on Monday mornings, 8 a.m., right to my inbox. I just want to take a glance at it so that I can know what's going on. And this is a great example of what that looks like.
Yeah, so kind of I think the only thing I would add to this is that the color coding is certainly something that we don't currently have in any of our current reports and applications. They certainly wanted a way to be able to call attention to locations that had significantly past due tasks. And I think that's a big differentiator in this report as well, is I think when Pacer, our reports showed if you how many tasks that are past due, but didn't necessarily show how past due those particular tasks are. And this particular customer wanted to make sure they're highlighting the ones that are super past due and to make sure those things are showing up in red. So that gives it a little more attention. But that's just what this particular customer cared about, and it's a cool example.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, we have a great question in the chat is, can this report drill down to one department? Yeah, and we can actually add that layer in so that every location could have an additional layer that shows by department or by discipline. It's definitely something that's doable. Yeah.
For sure. We can do it by discipline or even or department, either way.
Yeah, awesome. So we'll move on to the next scorecard, which is a project by project comparison. So for background, this customer wanted to show all of their projects that they have active in the top by column, and then by row, all the locations. In this particular instance, this client was using projects in a way that after the project was done, they wanted to have one person, whether it be a corporate person or a location leader, mark the project as certified. And that was the way that they know they've closed the door and shut the book on this. So we have some cells here that show certified. We have cells that show that all tasks have been completed, but it's not certified yet, or they're on pace, or they're past due. So this is another great highlight of a quick side-by-side comparison of, hey, where are we at here? And of course, this comes in an Excel format, so we're always able to just take the top row and use filters. So that way you can just use a drop down and find exactly what you want. We've also worked with some customers who are pretty savvy with pivot tables, and they're able to turn all this data into a pivot table for themselves and to share out to other members of their team.
For those who don't know, Connor loves pivot tables. It's like his favorite thing in the world to be able to do. Let's create a pivot table for it. Like, oh no, not another pivot table. So,
once you learn it.
No, I know this is a cool.
No idea.
Yeah. See what I'm talking about, folks? This is exactly what I'm talking about. So, I thought this was a cool report because definitely a lot of stuff. All the reporting at Pacer really kind of highlights one project at a time or one location and all the projects at that one location. But this is the first time we've created a customer report where you can see all the projects that have been deployed in a particular quarter or a particular year, and be able to see, look, across each location how they're performing across each project. I still don't quite understand what past tasks do is in the color blue. But hey, who am I? Again, this is a customer report. That's what that customer wanted. They wanted to be in blue versus red, and that's what we delivered. So cool.
Some people love a good aesthetic,
Yep. Okay. Talking about the guy that's trying to buy a house and is looking at the aesthetic colors of the rims. Okay, we're getting off topic. Let's keep going.
Jordan asked if this shows only active projects. We can show active. And actually, which is a great point, this report was great. And actually, it evolved that this same customer said, hey, can you give me that same report, but only show me projects that are done and maybe their success rate that they were completed. So once we created this one project report, it kind of evolved and said, hey, let's talk about another project we can do. We didn't get the chance to include it because actually that was one of the ones that we've did so recently that it isn't in the app yet. But we're in that we've done it so recently that we hadn't put it on this presentation. We're in the stage right now where we're having a back and forth conversation of what's the best way to display it. But essentially, they loved this report so much that they wanted to show the success rate of each project that's been completed in the past. So we did create that report for that person, and they do have it now. But that's a great question, Jordan. Yeah, you can also definitely include historical data.
Yeah, so just to clarify that, I don't want to confuse things because we're kind of talking about two different things. But like, yes, this particular, I mean, it's a custom report, so you can include active projects or even inactive projects. And then to Connor's point, they flipped it around to say, okay, I appreciate that this particular property certified it, but did they certify it on time? So they were looking for how many locations were completing their projects when they should have completed them versus, just is it complete or not? So they were getting into comparing the date it was actually done versus just whether it's done at all. Cool.
Yeah, and she even asked, does that even include retired projects? Which,
yeah, it could, absolutely, yeah.
Cool. All right, we'll move on to the next one. So that's it for scorecards. Of course, because they're custom, it's whatever fits your needs best. These are just examples of we've done. So just because that's the end of the scorecard section doesn't mean there could be a different scorecard that shows project performance using different data that's side by side. But we'll move on to a subject that has to do with openings. So in this particular case, we have locations and we have their contracted opening date. And, that's different for every person. But in this particular instance, perhaps by contract, maybe they're working with another organization and the contract says they need to open on X date. But as we know, what happens with ongoing construction and new builds, there is always this target date that's being adjusted back and forth. So what we did was we were able to pull a side-by-side comparison of what the anticipated contract date is and then what their current targeted opening date is. And then we're able to show a formula that shows how many months early or late that is, and then what country it is in. And then also they also wanted to add number of keys per location. So as you can tell, this is a hotel.
Thanks, Connor. Yeah, I think the only thing I would add is I think you nailed it. So, they were just really trying to compare the date that the development team said that they were going to be opening. It's like, oh yeah, well, sure, we can absolutely help you open by the 27th of February, but don't necessarily take into account construction delays, supply chain issues, so on and so forth. So the openings team wanted to be able to go back to the development team to be able to compare and see how realistic some of those dates were. Okay, cool. Let's keep going.
Yeah. All right, so the next one we have, which is our last one. So that's location task comparison to baseline. This one is pretty exciting for us because, a lot of times when we have these conversations with people, we start to see things in a way that we may have not seen them before. So we get pretty excited when a unique issue arises and we're able to find a way to fix it with these custom reports. And what happened here is a company was opening up a brand new location. They're fairly new to using the app. They created a baseline and they pushed it to this one location they're working on. They partnered up with Pacer at the right time. It was just about to start. They pushed it, and now time is going on. And just as Rich mentioned before, like construction delays happen, supply chain issues happen. So what happened was they were taking their baseline and realizing that some things were happening sooner and some things were happening later. So what they did was they adjusted the target date of the task at the location level. And then what they wanted to do was get a side-by-side comparison of what did they initially think that was going to be based on their baseline, and what did it turn out to be based on how they had to change the date at the location. And then they wanted to get that difference. So we added that difference column that shows how many days early or late that became. And then that way, this helps them take this report after they opened it. They'll take this report, they'll print out they'll export their baseline tasks, and then they can sit in a room and take each individual leader of by department and sort of go back through their baseline and adjust and make it work what works best for the next opening, which is a really great segue. We talked about spring cleaning in the last call and changing dates and updating baselines and exporting and fixing them. So this I love this one because it really ties that together of, this is what that can look like for you in a custom report, a good way to see things side by side that you may not have thought of before.
I compare this from a financial perspective to like the difference between budget and forecast.
Yeah.
It's just really like based on the baseline, this task should have been done on the 15th of April, but they changed it to be the 13th of December, which is quite a bit later. Or I guess in this case was earlier. You get the idea. So it really allowed them. But one thing you can also add to a customer report like this is the date something was actually completed as well. So you could have budget based on the baseline, forecast, the date that they've set it to at the location, and then actual completion date. So when they actually change the status of the task to complete, could also get added to a customer report. So you could compare the date it's completed with the date that the baseline originally had it set to. All kinds of cool stuff you can do.
Yeah, there's so many ways to evolve the way that we do these reports. Yeah. Great. So actually for the next section, I'm going to pass over to Rich. We have a really exciting chapter here of what we have coming soon. And as I mentioned earlier in the call, we've got a lot of polls. So just make sure that you're participating in our polls. We really want to get your feedback. There'll be one after each section. We definitely want to hear how you're feeling about each one here. So go ahead, Rich.
Hey, so make sure I don't like step over top of when a poll's supposed to happen. So just interrupt me here,
Gotcha.
Connor. So yeah, great segue. There's really I could have spent an hour or 2 or 3 or 4 on this topic, but we really kind of narrowed it down to 4 things we wanted to get some feedback on how important it would be for your organization if we added this feature into Pacer. So we'll start with the first one, which is language translation, and then I'll go through the other 3 that are here on the left-hand side. So thought process is kind of very similar to what you would see in a social media app. If you're looking at a friend's post that was written in a different language than your language, we basically would pick up what your current language is based on your browser, Chrome, Firefox, Safari, what language your current language is, and compare that to the task language. And then if for some reason it's different, we would give you an option to see a translation of that particular task. So we certainly have got a lot of requests for, especially to be able to translate to simplified Chinese, in addition to some of the most common ones like English to Spanish, English to French, so on and so forth. We're already getting some hearts. So okay, so very similar to your social media app, the thought process is that it would show a link at the bottom of the task. In this case, my language is set to Spanish. The task is in English. So it's vers la traduction. I think I said that more like French than I did Spanish, but okay. I think it is French. It doesn't matter. Anyway, so then you will see beneath that the actual translation into that language. Now, that said, this is using AI tools like we've certainly heard a lot about like Chat GPT, but it could certainly use like Google Translate, Bing Translate, and I'm guessing a lot of people on the call have used that before. Those tools are constantly evolving and improving. So I think we'll get some decent translations out of it. But at the same time, I totally appreciate that some of our tasks are very specific to organizations, the stuff that just doesn't translate. So we want to make sure that there's a way for the individual that's viewing that translation to also rate the translation. So it could be as simple as rank it 1 through 5, or it could be an up arrow or a down arrow. Who knows what that actually will look like, but we want them to be able to notate if something's not going right. Our guess is it's the 80-20 rule. 80% of the translations will be fantastic, and you'll have 20% of your translations that are not so fantastic. So we want to be able to find out what the 20% are as soon as possible, so we can go in and make manual adjustments and edits to it as necessary. We could even rely on some of your team members to suggest an edit, so that as they're actually reading it, they can I can just go in and make a quick change, so that you don't have to do the translation. You can let other people do it for you. and help you with it. And then you can decide what goes into the app and what doesn't. So anyway, language translation seems like a first step in the right direction, hopefully, for language translation. Hopefully that makes sense. People can post comments or questions in the chat if you do, or raise your hand. Do I go on to the next one now, Connor?
Oh yeah, let me just send out this poll, and I gotta say, good thing we have to rate this translation, because if that's supposed to be Spanish, our Spanish speakers would definitely give that one a thumbs down if it's French. But yeah, let me send out this.
I don't know any Spanish that has a thing on top of it, so I think I did something wrong. Blame me on that one.
I just set the poll out, so definitely would love to know how big of an impact this would have on your organization, and make yourself familiar with this rating structure, because this is the same poll we're going to send out after each one. We definitely want to understand how impactful this is. And just as a heads up, towards the end of Rich's section of this presentation, we'd love for you to put all of what we have for you today in a ranking order. So we will keep that in mind and make sure you have your favorite bookmarked so that we can rate them appropriately. And we'll move on to the next segment.
Yeah, maybe someone can tell us what language that actually was. Not totally sure. All right, let's go into the next item. The next item on the list we want to get some feedback on was the ability to update multiple baseline tasks at the same time. So, historically, we've always encouraged our administrators to be able to create one baseline with all the tasks that are applicable to everybody, and then have separate task lists for the extra things that are applicable to only certain locations. Well, that certainly works for some things, but it doesn't work for everything. And we'll start to see the same task be included in multiple baselines out there. You may have a baseline from an openings perspective. You may have a baseline for managed properties versus franchise properties. You may have a baseline for one brand versus the other. And it just makes sense that they're not, that the task lives in multiple baselines. And that's okay. There are definitely scenarios where it makes sense to do so. In the current way, you can certainly search across all those baselines using the cross baseline search option tool page, whatever. But if you needed to then edit it, you would have to go into each one of these different tasks and make the same edit across all of them. So we want to provide ideally a simple little checkbox on the left-hand side that you could tick off which of those baseline tasks you want to update at the same time. And then that would open a drawer on the right-hand side where you can type in the new task name or the new additional information, or even change the department name or the job title associated with it, so on and so forth. And then, of course, once you update that, it would also then update any locations that have that particular task as well. So you'd be updating multiple baselines and the applicable locations all at the same time. Yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Connor, feel free to share or add anything else I haven't mentioned.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. We have that task search feature, but to have the checkboxes on the left, you might find familiar with that bulk update feature. So being able to toggle, it may not be all of them that you need to change. So being able to toggle which ones, it's fantastic. I'm going to send the poll out now. So give you some time to complete that. Any questions so far in any of these? I know we have some pretty good responses, pretty good reactions to these in the chat too. So that's super happy to hear that. And of course, just as a reminder, your names are not recorded in your input on the polls. And while that's still going, I won't close it out yet, but I can move on to the next section here for you, Rich.
Very cool. Well, yeah, hang on. Okay. I gotta click the little close button myself. Okay, follow instructions. All right, so the third thing we had on the list is a little bit different. But we appreciate that we've got a big blank space here on the admin page that we're not currently using it for anything. So we've had a couple of thoughts that we could add in training information here, like how do I do this, how do I do that. which could just be links out to our help documentation, but things that come up on a regular basis. It could be training videos or links to those videos that Connor's been starting to create. It could be quick links within the application of stuff that you're already doing. So create a new user, invite a user, create a new location, add a new project, edit an existing project with the option to be able to edit that project that you've already got created. The thought is that there's a big blank space here. We don't really know what to put there. And we're certainly looking for advice and suggestions on how we can make your life simpler and hopefully save you a couple of clicks here and there in order to get what you do every day done faster. The other thought is that we'd probably update the labels along the left-hand side here as well. Right now, it's these one-word kind of section titles that if you haven't had a lot of training in Pacer, don't always necessarily mean a whole lot. So we're adding some descriptors to each of those things along the left-hand side to make it a little bit more obvious what they actually are related to. So things like baselines. Some people don't appreciate the baseline as a template, so let's call it a base task or a task template baselines, and you can create and manage a list of tasks to be assigned. There you go. It's just a little bit more explanation into what's each of those things are along the left-hand side.
Yeah, we use these features a lot, and we may not appreciate that there are some organizations out there who aren't always adding locations all the time. So sometimes people will reach out to me and say, hey, how do I add a user again? Or where do I go to add a location? Or even in their configuration values, you may have expanded into Europe and you actually deleted Europe from some of the configurations by region or by area that you want to, however you want to organize it, and you forget how to add some of those things in there. So it's definitely a great opportunity to be able to refresh your memory there. I put the poll live there for you also. I'll close it out in just a minute here. Looks like we've got.
So if anybody has any suggestions on what to put in this page, feel free to drop us a note because we're certainly looking for ideas.
Yeah,
and we obviously want those ideas to be helpful. So
yeah, definitely. If anything comes to mind immediately, feel free to throw it in the chat before the call ends, or always feel free to send me an email. I'm definitely open to receiving some feedback.
So the fourth item we had on the list is multiple zero dates for projects. And so let me try to give a little context to this. I'm going to use a pre-opening example because I think it's probably the easiest example to explain in a webinar like this. So currently, if you have a pre-opening checklist, all of those tasks are pretty much based on the date of the opening. So you'll say this particular task needs to be done 30 days prior to opening, or this particular task needs to be done 90 days prior to opening, or 52 weeks prior to opening, so on and so forth. But we're hearing more and more often that there is different important dates that you're basing tasks off of that may not necessarily be the open date. So you may have a date that you're going to start selling rooms, and there's things that need to take place prior to the date of selling rooms. Or maybe there's the date that the manager company needs to sign an agreement, or the ownership team needs to sign an agreement, and then there's a date in which they need to make a deposit or something of this nature that's based on the agreement signing date. So there's tasks that may be T or minus or plus from the contract date. Anyway, there's these different kind of important, I hate to use the word milestone, but if you'll bear with me, I'll just use the word milestone. There's these kind of important milestones, and people want to be able to set target dates based on those milestone dates versus just using the opening date. So in addition to openings, this would of course be applicable to any project that's in the application as well. So right now, all of our projects are based on what we call a zero date. And this concept that you within your project will be able to set up different types of zero dates, if you will, that you can name however you wish. And then when you're going to push that particular project down to individual locations, thank you, Connor, then you'll see the different date options that you have specified for this particular project. So I would say, okay, I'm going to push this project down to 10 different locations. The zero date is April 16th. The sell date is June 1st. And in this case, a go live date, I guess, would be different potentially than a zero date. Could be yet a third date. It could be training date, right? We've seen that happen in the past. So dates that they, if there's tasks that need to happen before the training happens and tasks that happen after the training take place. So anyway, lots of different options to use this. It certainly adds a level of, I won't say complexity, but it does add a whole nother level of intricacy to your baseline tasks as well as to your project. And again, it's completely optional, project by project. It wouldn't be something we would force you into. Ooh, that's a lot to try to explain.
You did great.
Thank you. I'll pat myself on the back.
What if we don't have the date when the baseline is launched? Question came in.
Good question. Yeah. So right now we haven't really considered that. I guess we'd have to figure out what impact that would actually have. So good question. I don't have an answer.
It looks like we got 10 responses, so I'll go ahead and close this poll.
All right. Well, thanks, Connor. I appreciate you letting me take over your Cadence call here for a few minutes to go through some of those enhancements to try to figure out what's. Oh, you got another poll? You did get poll happy on this.
I know. Right. I went crazy. Better to have feedback than to just figure out whatever we wanted to do, though, right? We learn a lot
for sure.
From everyone when we have these conversations with you all, like, individually, which is my day to day, right? And Rich is heavily involved in that as well, and it's getting feedback. And once we figure out these polls, we're like, let's do it. So.
All right, so I'm just clicking and dragging here, right? Yeah. Okay. Put these in order.
Yeah, just put those in order, any which way that you would like to see rolled out first. So first would be at the top, last would be at the bottom. Great. Looks like we've got quite a bit of responses. So I'm going to go ahead and close it out. Give you a minute here. I know this one is a little bit more involved. Everyone was pretty quick, though. Great. All right. Cool. So we're going to move on to our next section. So we're actually, as I mentioned earlier, we have Perry Dunbar on the call. He's our Director of Brand Engagement. And I'm going to let him take over and give it a little introduction about himself and what his goals and plans are with Pacer. And so I'll pass it over to you, Perry.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Connor. And great job, you two. That was a lot of fun. And yeah, I thought the polls were awesome. Hello, everyone. I'm Perry Dunbar, and I am new to the Pacer team, but I have been around this tool for a very long time. A little bit on my history. Shout out to some former colleagues on the call this morning. It's great to see your names. I was formerly with Marriott for 22 years, did a variety of roles. So a bit of history is my very first Marriott hotel. I came in as a college intern and became the front office manager there. Mr. Rich Mashinik was our guest service manager. So that was the first time Rich and I had gotten to know each other. And then throughout our careers, we've kind of woven back and forth together. I think relevancy of my background for this call, I still can't figure out how you look 20 years younger than me, Rich, when I think we're close to the same age. But
well, so I didn't remember that I was the guest services manager at the hotel.
Yeah, I remember it.
Yes. You reminded me of stuff here. Okay.
You had that little closet office up on the second floor.
All right. Then I moved into HR, I guess, after that. Okay, it's coming back.
Yep, you got it. All right. See, good thing one of us has a good memory here. So a little bit later on, Rich and I kind of went separate ways. We both then were involved with openings at Marriott, but I went on to become the director of implementation at Marriott, where I was charged with effectively deploying all new programs, products, and services. Rich at that point had developed the initial application that would become Pacer, and it was really focused on openings. And so I was dealing with a lot of challenges, and I'll never forget the day that I invited Rich to come into Marriott headquarters. And we sat down and I was talking through, some of my challenges, and we both collaborated on this idea of building out all of the hotels within the Marriott system, and basically being able to push out projects by many different ways and of doing that. And that ended up becoming what's landed. I saw somebody mention in the chat earlier, landed by Pacer within the Marriott system. And then before I left Marriott, I was vice president of global property management systems, and it was exciting to see the tool really flex its muscle when it was a big part of Starwood integration and how we integrated all of the Starwood hotels in the systems. And I was one of the big four system stakeholders in that. And so that was great. After Marriott, I did some consulting. Some was consulting related to management companies using Pacer, which was a lot of fun, and also got my commercial boat captain's license, following up a lifelong passion, and got engaged with Rich once again. Where I think I lasted maybe 2 months as an official advisory board member, helping to support Rich. And as I start talking about my role, one of the things, and I was, very proud to be a part of that. There's a couple of other great individuals, former tech startup CEOs that have been very successful that, Rich uses to get ideas on growing this company. But kind of all three of us said, along with Rich, is, why the heck is this just so hospitality focused? Does it need to be? Is it, really just kind of a hotel thing? Or is there applicability outside of it? And as we got more into those discussions, that's really how my role became to be, because I am passionate about this project. It's probably one of the few things that could have me working full time again, quite honestly. But my main focus here at Pacer is on growth. And I think shout out to our director of sales, Kristen Boykos, on the call, I believe. And Kristen's got a really good pipeline continued in the hotel and the hospitality space. But what we really believe is that there is a lot of benefits to us expanding beyond hospitality. One, I will say, once I joined the team, I had a great session in Philadelphia where I was sitting down with Connor, and he was showing me a lot of the other great ideas, like some of the reports you were seeing earlier, and some of the other enhancements come from us engaging new groups, new customers, people getting involved, and we really building this community of excellence and opening and implementation. And I think that's great. And, for any of you that have been involved in innovation in your careers, innovation isn't something that always just comes because, wow, it's out of air. But innovation usually becomes because people are making connections that usually others don't. And a big part of that is building this community of learning from each other. And I believe as I start to talk to other industry leaders and other industries that are also doing openings or opening up new units, opening up new stores, whatever the case may be, is that by one, I think Pacer is a great product that can help them. And two, I think that as we pull them into the fold, I think it'll be great for all of us, because I think that it will lead to enhancements and changes and, some real innovation for Pacer that we just don't even see. It's not even in front of us right now. So I'm really excited to be here to focus on growth. Moving forward. Another part of that is being the social media side, really being a business to business type business. LinkedIn is probably the strongest area to do that. And so I want to engage that. One, I want it to be better for all of us that are in the hospitality world to be able to engage with each other. But second, I really want us to have good engagement with other industries as we bring people into the fold. And, with that, Pacer has a great referral program that some of you may be aware of, but if not, I just wanted to mention it for you. If you're listening to me talk today and you're like, wow, I have a neighbor that, helps open hospitals or medical units or dentist office or, whatever the case may be, restaurants, and you feel like, this would be a part, maybe you talk to them, but if you, get them to us and we end up doing a 1-hour demo and an initial conversation to learn more about their industry and if Pacer could be a fit, you could get financially compensated for that. Number two, then you can get more compensation if they end up to being a customer. So obviously we have a lot of advocates and very strong users of this tool on there. And so I think that if you all step back and think about it away from hotels, you can probably see that there's applicability there. So, visit us, getpacer.com. It's under the referral section, and if you have anyone that you want to help us connect with, please let us know. We would be very, very excited to do that, and we look forward to, my vision is when we have our first quarter cadence next year, is that it's not just going to be hospitality focused, but we're going to have some other cool industry or two on this call with us as well. And Connor and Rich will be presenting out some fun innovation that we're learning from those relationships. And along with that, just a reminder, if you haven't, getting into brand engagement, staying engaged with us. I think there's a lot of expertise on this impressive team that Pacers put together. So I think we can offer a lot of thought leadership, but I think a lot of it too is we're great listeners, and we're constantly looking and sharing things that will help us all. So if get engaged with us. If you're not on our LinkedIn page, then please do that. And to help push that, kind of an exciting little thing for you to take part of, if you're willing, is if you go to our LinkedIn page, we created something a while back called an ebook. And this ebook really is a little bit of thought leadership. The subject really is 5 common pitfalls with multi-site project management. And again, this isn't, although we are mostly in the hospitality business right now, I think if you go in and read the ebook, you'll see that it really can apply outside of our industry. And so if you haven't done it, make sure that, get your copy of the ebook, and maybe you will see some ideas in there that can help your organization. But what we would also challenge you to do is that, a lot of you have a lot of great people in your network. And if you find it applicable, please, share that. And so here's how it's going to work. If you go in and, obviously connect with us on the page, you'll probably get a connection back from a few of us on the Pacer team. And once you do that, if you go out and you share, if you have any words that you want to say about Pacer when you share it to your network, that would be awesome. Make sure you like the ebook post also. And then we're going to take everyone that does that. And I think we talked to 2 people in Asia last night, and there's so you're looking at maybe a pool of 17 to 20. So that's pretty good odds for those of you that play the lottery. So you could be 1 out of 17, 1 out of 20 to win a $100 Amazon gift card, or if there's something else that for $100 that you would be interested in versus Amazon, we're flexible. But go in, like us, like our ebook post, share that, and you'll be entered for a chance to win a $100 Amazon gift card. So looking forward to joining the team. I'm very excited to be here. I'm looking forward to the wonderful growth that's going to be happening. And I think that's going to lead to a lot of great innovation, discussions, and I think benefits for all of us as we move forward. So, Connor, I'll let you clean up if I missed anything on the contest there, but I hope I hit it all.
No, you're great. I'm sure everyone's excited for you to be on the team. You're giving out $100 already.
No, that's great. Right. Look at that. Thank you, Rich.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit after this.
Yeah. Yeah, that was great. Thanks, Barry. And just to be clear, in order to be entered to the contest, you have to follow our page and repost the ebook. And again, as Perry mentioned, we'd love for you to take a look through it. And you're the advocates. You're the ones that are using the app and that are in the hospitality industry and working on projects and multi-site project management. So if you have anything to share, feel free to write that in the repost, and we'll pick a lucky winner. Awesome.
The ebook really does have some great little stats in it. Even though that a lot of people on this call are already utilizing Pacer, there's some great tidbits on just project management and such in general. which I feel like are always helpful, especially as we're trying to gain more and more support within our organizations to support the project management roles within our companies. There's some great tidbits on just project management in general and the benefits and the impact of using appropriate project management processes and what are the ideologies, I guess is probably the best word. So some cool stats and such in that ebook. So cool.
Yeah, awesome. I'll open it up for Q&A now. If anyone has any questions or anything, feel free to write in the chat. And of course, if there's anything you think of after the call, feel free to send myself an email. I'll be happy to follow up with you individually. And then before you go, while you're thinking of any questions, one last and final poll. We were talking about when we should host the next Pacer Cadence webinar. So we're thinking the week of the 24th of July. And, we were talking last time we did it on a Wednesday night and a Thursday morning for our friends in Hong Kong and Asia who can join on a 24-hour time difference because we're on the East Coast. So we definitely wanted to get an idea of what works best for all of you. And we'll take into consideration the votes here. And we'll send out a formal update on what that day ends up being. Responses are flowing in. Looks like we've got a very clear winner already too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I just appreciated that you can actually see the results come in as they go. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, I was looking at it on a different screen. I didn't realize it's all in the chat as well. So that's great. So we got a good amount of responses there. Appreciate that. And that's all we have for today. So thank you again for joining. We look forward to more feedback from all of you so that we have some really great updates for the next call in July.
Well, thank you so much.
Closing remarks,
Connor, appreciate it. We'll just just want to say thank you to you and welcome aboard, Perry. It's great to have you. I think it's if nothing else, it's really nice to have someone that new customers can talk to that's actually implemented the application within the organization, which is a little different perspective than the perspective we have to share. So very cool, very nice to have you on the team, on board. And Connor, thank you so much for pulling together the Pacer Cadence information. It's always an enjoyable hour. I'm just seeing that, making sure that we have any Q&A questions come through.
Yes, yeah, we have one person typing right now.
Yeah, give just a moment. But otherwise, want to say thank you to all of you who joined us today, and those of you that are actually watching us on the video. Sorry you weren't able to join us live, but certainly if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. You know how to find us. All right, cool. All right, then yeah, I think that's about it, right, Connor?
Yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for all the positive feedback in the chat. I hope you all have a great rest of the day.
Great day, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Great to see everyone. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.